Good evening, everybody. So we'll go ahead and get started. I'm Judy Cheatham, the Provost and Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs, and it's terrible that we're bringing this to you tonight in some ways because it's so tragic. In the other hand, we want you to be as prepared as you can be for anything that comes your way. So tonight, you're going to hear from Homeland Security experts. We're very proud on our campus that we have a criminal justice major, and we have Homeland Security that our own students can study. We're very proud of that. We're very proud that we have our own Director of Security, Josie Brown. What Josie will do is introduce our guests to you. She'll tell you what you need to know, and then they will follow up. So thank you for being here. If anybody says, do I have to come? Yes, this is mandatory for everybody, for our faculty, for our students, and our staff. So thank you again for being attentive, and thank you for being here tonight.
All right, as she said, thank y'all for coming. I definitely appreciate this. This is very crucial, important information for you, all right? So while we're doing this, I really want you to pay attention. If you have any questions, ask questions. We love questions, okay? If you don't ask, you don't know, right? Is that fair to say? Okay, all right. So, as all of you came in, you saw a QR code. Was anyone unable to scan that QR code on your UTS app? Show of hands. I know you, Justin. Any students that were not able to? If you were unable to scan the QR code, which is this one right here, come see me after this, okay? That's the only way you're going to get credit for being here. So if you were not able to scan it, I repeat again, come see me after this, okay? All right. So Homeland Security is going to come up next, or not, excuse me, I apologize. The chief is going to come up next, Chief Dickey with Pulaski Police Department. He would like to say a couple words. I really want y'all to see that we are here together for you. We have the chief here, the Sheriff's Department participates, we have Giles County EMS here, Homeland Security's here. We're all here for you. Right? It is our mission, it is our goal to keep you safe and to help you prepare for what we hope never happens, but it could happen. All right, so here is Chief Dickey.
All right, thank you, Josie, for having me here. I'll be real brief. Maybe you noticed you said I had a couple of words. That's the cue to me to keep it real low. But anyway, I'm John Dickey. I'm the Chief of Police in Pulaski. Just wanted to share with you how this place, this city, this county is near and dear to me, as well as Sheriff Helton. He couldn't be here. I think he's vacating or whatever. But anyway. But he and I started at the Pulaski Police Department. He started in '89. I started in 1991, and we worked many years together. He went on to work at the Sheriff's Department, and he came back, and then he ran for sheriff, or was elected sheriff in 2006. And in 2007, I was appointed chief, so I've been there as the chief since '07. And he and I attended school here. We grew up here. We was born and raised here in Giles County. He attended high school at Richland. I attended high school at Giles County High. And I share that with you because we're not just, somebody come in here that they hired in law enforcement or whatever, and then, our roots is somewhere else. They're all implanted right here in this county and in this city. And not only is this city and county near and dear to us, this college is too. I mean, we've seen it grow from a 2-year to a 4-year transition, and then recently, a couple years ago, merging in with UT Southern, which has been just a great thing. Nothing but positive things has come out of that. And our whole initiative with us, with the police, as far as law enforcement goes, is we want you to concentrate on your education and get your degrees, and it's our initiative and our desire to provide as a safe environment for you as we possibly can. But it takes all of us working together. You're going to have some presenters here that's going to give you some information that'll be invaluable that you're not going to get anywhere else. And I just want to share that with you, but I want you to understand that as far as anybody with the Pulaski Police Department, and I think I can say the same thing for the Giles County Sheriff's Department, that if you ever need to reach out or you need information or you want to talk to an officer, we're here for you. Once again, like I said, this is here, and when, I think Sheriff Helton's probably about ready to retire on his last term, and I'm not far behind. But we're gonna be here. So it's not like, we go back home. When we go back home, we still be in this county and in this city. So I just wanted to share that with you. Thank you for having us here. Like I said, if you ever have anything, you reach out to us, one of our officers, you let me know. And if you don't get a good treatment from one of our people, I certainly want to know about it, because, we want to, I want a good face presentation from our police department and a good image. And we strive on that. So I want you to reach out to us and don't be ashamed to do that, okay? Thank y'all.
All right, so now we are going to have Homeland Security come up. This is going to be Mario Vigil. Please give him your undivided attention. Any questions you ask, again, I encourage you, please ask questions, all right?
All right.
Courtney's actually the agent assigned to Giles County. Let me start off tonight saying that I wish we weren't here, honestly. I wish this wasn't necessary, but you can't wish it away. So I hope in the next 50 to 55 minutes, give you some information that you never have to use, all right? But again, wishing things away doesn't work. When I was in school, I wish I didn't have to take any tests, but when I showed up, it was still there and I had to deal with it. So if nothing else, if you take away from tonight some information that you can kind of store away, and if that terrible dark day comes where you have to react or you have to respond, you've got some training, some kind of memory of what to do. But with that said, again, I wish we weren't here tonight, but we are. So, real quick, this first part, I just want to give you some facts, some data, and go from there. But we live in a world now where years ago, active shooter events were not as commonplace. Does anybody know how many active shooter events have occurred in the United States as of today? And let me caveat that. An active shooter event is anything that involves 4 or more casualties. Any idea? Less than 100, 200, 300? What's that? No, absolutely not. I wish it was less than 100. I think as of today, when I checked this morning, it was 576 active shooter events in the United States this calendar year. So, what does the Department of Homeland Security classify as an active shooter? You see the definition up there. So we often talk, and you'll hear me use the term active shooter, but really probably the more proper term, not proper, the more correct term would be active killer. Someone who is actively trying to kill people in a confined or populated area, and generally, the choice of weapons is guns, but you can use pretty much anything. But again, I'll just use the term active shooter for the presentation. So, real quick, from a gun violence archive, if you really look on the mass shooting statistic, probably about 4 down. So, in the year 2022, we had 647 mass shootings in the United States. Again, we're on pace now probably to get to that number or maybe higher with a little over 3 months left, or 4 months left, I'm sorry. But again, we can't wish this stuff away. So, often talk about, who perpetrates these events, and I've worked closely with the FBI on some cases, and if you've watched any TV and you talk about, the FBI profilers and, hey, can we get a profile of who might likely be an active shooter, all right? And what we found is that there really is no profile that fits for who might be an active shooter. So there are some things they have in common, but again, if you had one statistic, that's probably the bottom bullet there. There's things that lead up to these people committing these atrocities, all right? It's not and you'll see it later in the presentation, and you hear people say, well, hey, that person just snapped. People don't just snap. There's things that lead up to that act of violence. All right. So we've all probably experienced one or more of these stressors in our lives at one point, and we'll experience them as we go on. But that doesn't mean that our resort is violent. We resort to violence. So this is probably the most common thing is the overwhelming majority of these offenders are male. All right. And 98% are committed by one attacker. In law enforcement, we train to deal with these events, and we're always in the back of our mind that maybe multiple attackers, but the vast majority are committed by one attacker. A lot of these attacks, most of these attacks are planned in great detail. It's not a spur-of-the-moment thing. And there's a term we use in law enforcement called leakage. These attackers will generally leak this information to someone, all right? Lately, they've been posting a lot of things on social media. And we, as individuals, as humans, kind of want to wish this stuff away. Well, Mario said this, but he didn't really mean it, all right? He's just trying to get attention or whatever it may be. If you go back in the last calendar year, the last 2 calendar years, some of the more spectacular attacks, the attack down in Uvalde, that offender, that attacker was actively talking to a young lady in Europe that morning, and he told her exactly what he was going to do, all right? So very compressed timeline for her to warn anybody, and it probably wasn't going to be able to happen to stop the attack. But again, a lot of these attackers will telegraph what they're going to do, and a lot of it is on social media. Here's some facts for you, and a sobering fact. A lot of the attackers come from within the communities that they attack, all right? You look at the numbers there. And again, many of them had a relationship with one or at least one of their victims, if not more. Look at that large slice there in the academic arena, all right? I think back in my lifetime of the first time that I can remember of a school attack was the Columbine attack. I can remember where I was and how shocked I was to watch some of that footage as it occurred, all right? And that led to a lot of changes in law enforcement. But I think what it led to down the road was people were desensitized to these attacks. Can anybody name the latest attack on a school campus, on a college campus? Yes, sir. Morgan State University, right, in Maryland, just about 36 hours ago. But that news cycle is super quick. We heard about it, and now we're on to something else. I remember when Columbine happened, it was a 24-hour news cycle for days. So how will an attack end? All right, what stops the attack? It's likely to end violently, and you see the statistics up there of how it will end. The vast majority of attackers that go into these situations do not survive, either at the hands of law enforcement, in some cases, the hands of an armed citizen, but other cases, they take their own life. Very rarely, and I can only think of one case that sticks out of my mind, where an attacker went into a situation and actually fled and did get away, and eventually turned himself into law enforcement. So how long does an attack generally last? 5 to 10 minutes. What's the general police response? It's approximately the same, right? So a lot of damage can be done in that intervening time between when an attack starts and when you have a law enforcement response. Here in Pulaski, you're fortunate. You're in the city. The police department is literally a couple of minutes away. They have officers that patrol through the campus. But again, a lot of bad things can happen in those intervening moments and minutes of an attack. So really the gist of this presentation is, what do you do, all right, to increase your chances of surviving an active shooter event? So any questions on those sobering facts, anything? But before we get really into the kind of the meat and potatoes of this. All right, so what do you do to prepare yourself? And not only prepare, I think more importantly, to prevent one of these things from happening. I mean, if you could condense today's presentation into one line, I would tell you, it's have a plan, all right? Be prepared for an unexpected event, all right? Think back when you were in school, elementary school and middle school and high school. What drills did you have? I think back to my days, and I grew up in West Texas. We dealt with tornadoes and things like that. So we had those drills. We never had active shooter drills because it wasn't what was going on back in those days. But have a plan. I have a plan when I go out with my wife and son to dinner, all right? And it's not an elaborate plan. If we go to a restaurant or we go shopping, we talk about really quickly, hey, if something bad happens, and generally, if a fire, think of fire, whatever it may be, power going out, hey, we're finding ourselves in a darkened place. We look for the exits, how are we going to leave, and what we're going to do, and how we're going to reconnect if we're separated. But just having that mental plan. How many exits out of this building right now, out of this auditorium? So I heard 4, 5, again. And I'm sure most of you are very familiar with coming in here, right? And so it's kind of second nature. If you had to get out of here quickly, you would not be confused of where the exits are. They're well lit. You can find them quickly. But if you go into an unfamiliar place, just look around. What distracts us most every day? Phone. How many times have we seen people literally walk into things because they're on their phone? All right. I mean, I'm as guilty as the next person. All right. We live in a society. We live in a kind of environment that where our phones kind of capture our attention and keep us out of kind of looking up and kind of getting situational awareness as we're moving out. So I would tell you, especially if you're going into an unfamiliar environment, just, hey, take a second, look around. Movie theaters, whatever it may be. Look around. If something happens, where are the exits? How do I get out of here? Have a plan. All right? The third one's easy, right? We all have those phones, so we can let someone know what has happened or what is happening. All right? But ultimately, you have to be mentally and physically prepared to act. All right? You can't be frozen with indecision. If something happens, you have to make that quick decision of what you're going to do and then act upon it. So, again, be aware of your surroundings. Have that plan and share that plan. When you go out with your friends or go out with your family, hey, if something happens, let's real quick. It doesn't have to take, more than a minute. I will tell you for my family, as a law enforcement officer, if I go out with my family to dinner, I'm probably going to react differently than if I was by myself if something were to happen. My first instinct would be to take care of my family, make sure they're taken care of, they get to safety, and then if I had to take any kind of law enforcement action, do that second. But again, if I'm by myself, my actions are going to probably be different from the beginning. I will tell you, when we get to what you should do, I can't tell you today what you should do, all right? Only you can make that decision based on the circumstances, based on the threat you're facing. But what I can give you is some things to think about to help you to get to that instinct to act more quickly. I threw this in there today. The foster respectful personal interactions. How many times, and I am as guilty as the next person, when you're on the road, all right, and someone cuts you off, or someone speeds ahead of you, and you get that little burst. Oh, this is NASCAR now, right? Nobody's beating me. I'm not letting you merge into that lane. You should have merged a quarter mile back when you saw the signs. And I just dial it back and say, hey, does it really matter to me if that car gets ahead of me? All right. Again, I think now as a parent, it's like, what actions am I modeling for my son? So if we give everybody a little bit of grace, I think that goes a long way at times. So we talked about, I brought that up. I often hear, hey, they were fine one day and the next day they just snapped. What statistics and data shows us that's not the case, all right? So be aware of indications of potential violence and take actions accordingly. And we'll talk about them. You'll see them up here, but these aren't all encompassing. And to say, hey, I noticed 2 or 3 things, that person's going to perpetrate an act of violence. Not necessarily, but you have to kind of take the whole thing into consideration. So these are not all encompassing kind of, but if you start seeing in your classmates or your workmates or wherever you are, some things that aren't their normal behavior, or things that, hey, I've noticed that Mario is he's coming in late to work now, and he smells of alcohol, where before he was generally cheerful, he was easy to get along with. You start seeing these indicators that something's going on in Mario's life that's probably not good, and could, if everything else being the same, maybe be indicators of potential acts of violence. I will tell you that probably the most important one up there is if anyone's making any suicidal ideations or statements, or the flip side of that, homicidal ideations. Hey, starts talking about hurting people. Those are things that you can't kind of try to wish away. You have to let someone know. And we'll talk about how you do that. Obviously, the app you were all scanning today, that's a part of it. Being able to, number one, for you to gather information, but also for information to be communicated to you quickly. But I'll give you another one at the end of the day, or at the end of the presentation, that, hey, if you see some suspicious activity and you want to report it, it's an easy way to do it. You can do it anonymously if you want to, but it's been very, very successful in the K through 12 schools, and we're wanting to broaden it out to universities and colleges as well. Look at the bottom one, social media displays. I will tell you the majority of cases I investigate on threats to life come from social media, where someone has posted or said something on social media that what I found out, probably wouldn't do face-to-face with the person, all right? But they feel emboldened because there's a physical separation and distance, and they probably wouldn't say that to a person face-to-face, but they do on social media. And at the end of the day, when a person like me or local law enforcement shows up their door, what I found out is that they're generally surprised. I'll tell you very frankly, they didn't expect anyone to investigate these things. The way we look at it is we have to run down every threat. Even if I look at it at first glance and go, this is probably not credible, I can't depend on it, take that chance, all right? So we'll investigate, we'll make contact with that individual and try to figure out, is it a credible threat? Do they have the means? Do they have weapons accessible? what was their thought process about it, and going from there. But again, social media displays are one of the first things I look at to see if there's any indicators. All right, again, how much of our interactions are nonverbal communications, all right? I think we can all notice, especially with people we know or are used to seeing, we can tell if someone is unhappy, if they're angry, just by their body posture, the way they look, the way they carry themselves, their interactions. A lot of our communication is nonverbal, all right? So you can as you go about your day, you'll be able to tell that if people aren't, and then I'll air quotes, acting normally. Hey, something's off here, all right? Again, the caveat, because you see some of these things, does that mean that that person is going to become perpetrating an act of violence? Not necessarily. However, when you take it in totality with all the other circumstances, hey, Mario made some comments about harming himself or others, and I start seeing these other indicators, and at the end of the day, when we look at some of these things, people knew things, all right? They had pieces of that puzzle, and when we do that kind of forensic kind of autopsy on it, we can put it together, but it's too late at that point. So I asked Josie earlier this evening about the weapons policy on campus. As I understand it, you're not allowed to have, as a student, not allowed to have a weapon on campus, in your car, if you live in the dorm. But we live in a state where the possession of a weapon, if you don't have the other disqualifiers, you can go around armed without a license, and wear it either concealed or openly. So this part is, if you're in an environment where there's not supposed to be weapons, I'll give you some signs to look for to see if someone is possibly carrying a weapon. So let me run them all down here first. So the number one there is a security check. When a person who's not used to carrying a weapon, especially a pistol, I see it all the time. They do a security check. They want to make sure it's still there. So I've got a pistol on my hip, so I might do something like press my elbow. Is it still there? All right, or physically touch it. All right, has it shifted around? Is it where I put it? Inappropriate clothing for the environment. All right, you see somebody wearing it's hot. You see somebody wearing a jacket or a long shirt, or where it's like that looks out of place. They're possibly wearing that to cover a concealed weapon they have. The other one, jacket sag, and particularly for men in the winter, I do this all the time when I'm out and about, just kind of looking, saying, hey, you will see men generally will, if they don't have a weapon in a holster, they may put it in their pocket of their jacket in the winter, and you'll see that what we call jacket sag. That jacket will be uneven. It'll physically pull down on one side, and you may see the imprint or the bulge of the weapon. But again, bulges are outlines of the weapon. Years ago, I used to have a 28-inch waist. I do not anymore, all right? My wife's a really good cook. So I probably could not throw on a medium shirt and have a concealed holster, because that thing would just print. You would see it all the time. So bulges are outlines of weapons. It's a quick way to, hey, in an environment where there's not supposed to be a weapon, you need to let someone know. Then obviously visible weapon. Well, duh. See, where folks might be wearing a T-shirt and they reach up to grab something and their garment pulls up and you physically see the weapon. So just some things to look for. Again, just because someone is carrying a weapon doesn't mean they mean anybody any harm. However, in an environment where there's not supposed to be any, you need to let security folks know what's going on. Any questions on that? So, what's the response, all right, to one of these events? And I'll tell you, it just depends. It depends on what your role is, all right? Are you a student here, or are you faculty? Do you have a sense of responsibility to, maybe there's 2 or 3 of you, and you're kind of, hey, I feel responsible for these people. That might determine what your role is and what your response is to an event. At the end of the day, the bottom bullet there, note that the decisions you make must be made quickly to protect your life and possibly the lives of others, all right? Again, the second, is somebody going to look to you for guidance? As a parent, I know my son's probably going to look to me, well, maybe not so much now, he's 16 and he knows it all. But before that, Dad knew a couple of things, so he might have turned to me for guidance. But again, you're going to, as you leave school and you move into employment and you get into these different roles, you're going to be put into positions where people are going to look to you, hey, what should I do? And I'll give you a quick story about 9/11 and the Twin Towers. There were businesses, there was people in the second tower that was struck. When the first tower was struck, there were people that got up and said, I'm out of here. I'm leaving. It's not in my building. It's in the building next door. I'm leaving. And they exit. There was other places where businesses made announcements, hey, it's all okay. Go back to work. It's under control. And some people did. And generally, those people didn't survive. We all have that. Your spidey senses will tingle when something's out of place. Trust your instincts, all right? I will tell you, if something doesn't feel right, trust your instincts, all right? Don't let somebody talk you out of doing something for your safety to go, hey, don't worry about it. It's all good. It's years and years and years, of humans being on this planet. Trust your instincts. You know when something's wrong, all right? So what are your options? And I will tell you, they're labeled option 1, 2, and 3. Don't look at this as an algorithm. First I must do 1, then I must do 2, then I must do 3, all right? These are just the way they're laid out. You may not have option 1 and 2. You may be confronted with your only chance is option 3, all right? So what would option 1 be? What do you think we would say option 1 is? Get out of Dodge, right? Leave. Get yourself out of that situation, all right? Yep. So, I will tell you, there's some people that go, hey, maybe you should rename these. We call it run, hide, fight, all right? I'll just give the answers to the test. But again, some people go, well, should we tell people to run? What do we call it? Run, escape, flee. Get yourself out of that situation. Probably the best option if you're not in immediate danger, all right? If there's gunfire as part of this building, we're probably going to go out this way, right? The majority of us. Hey, the danger sounds like it's coming from my left, you're right. I'm probably going right, you're going left, right? We're getting away from it. If that's an option for you, all right? All right, regardless of what others are doing, again, goes back to trust your instincts. Don't let someone talk you out of your survival instinct, all right? Get to a safe location. What's a safe location? I will tell you, a safe location is where you can't be seen and there's some level of protection from gunfire, all right? Something that would, if bullets were to go in that direction, they would stop them. And I've spent years in the Army, and we use the term cover and concealment. Fancy words for saying cover protects you from bullets, concealment just protects you from view, all right? You want to get to a place where if you had to stop and the shooter was on, maybe shooting out a window or something, you were protected from those rounds hitting you, okay? So once you're there, if safe to do so, call 911, all right? Let someone know what's going on. Let them know your location. Even if you can't talk, at least get that get that call made and leave it as an open line. And really, you'll see more so if you have to take option 2 where you're barricading yourself in somewhere. So in a classroom environment, obviously, if you hear shooting in the hallway, you probably shouldn't go out into the hallway, right? I mean, anybody here, when you were in high school, did you not have any kind of active shooter drills? I think it's commonplace. Some of us are a little bit more mature, did not have them, yes. But I think our student population here, this is not uncommon for you, all right? Talk about, have you heard the term hard corner? Has anybody talked to you about, hey, the corner you should get into? So especially for our faculty in here, we designate what we call a hard corner. If this is the door, the room is there, whatever corner is closest to the wall where the door is and away from that door, all right, is a hard corner. All that means is if someone were shooting through the door or through the window on the door, it's almost going to be physically impossible to hit that corner, all right? A lot of schools now actually physically mark off that corner where you can see it. They keep it clear, where you can get into that hard corner if you had to. One of the things we advocate is if you're in class, that all doors are closed and locked, all right? And this is a hard thing to do, especially you think about elementary school, where you have kids that need to go to the bathroom, they're getting up, they're going out all the time, but sometimes safety isn't very convenient. And it's one of the things we drill. They say, what can I do to protect my students? I will tell you, the number one thing is keep all doors closed and locked, especially if there are students present. I would advocate the same thing for you. I mean, I think there are probably some communities now where you live where people still feel comfortable leaving their front doors unlocked before they go to bed. But a lot of places that's not the case anymore. I will just tell you, be cautious. Take measures that are reasonable. All right. So again, find a safe place. Again, talk about that hard corner. Lock the offender out. If you happen to be in a place that you can't fit, there's no lock on the door, or there's some places you have to go outside to lock the door, then try to barricade yourself in. Push heavy furniture, whatever it may be, quickly in front of that door and barricade yourself in. The vast majority of active shooter events are over in that 5 to 10 minute span, and some even much quicker, all right? I have watched dozens and dozens of camera footage of active shooter events, and I will tell you, the shooter knows that as soon as someone sees them with the gun or they fire that first round, that time is ticking for that event to be over for them. It's going to go quick. So they're not looking to breach a locked door. They're looking for easy access to potential targets. That's what they're doing. I've watched it. I'm sure Chief Dickey has seen them. I know my agents have seen them. They're checking doors, and if they can find an open door, that's where they're going to go into. If you stop that right there, they're going to bypass that door. They're going to go on to somewhere else. So quickly, if you can, lock the door or barricade it and get in that hard corner. When safe to do so, make that call, all right? We talked about, even if you feel like, hey, the shooter's out in the hallway, I don't want to draw attention to where I'm at, just open that line up, okay? I always kind of chuckle at this, try to remain calm. That's probably the hardest thing to do, but again, and don't think that that's your last option of staying locked in there. Something may happen that forces you to go to option 1 or to option 3. But again, be thinking about, what do I do next? What do I do if that person gets into this room? Or what do I do if, for whatever reason, there happens to be a fire now as part of this event? What do I do? So keep thinking. Don't just, hey, I'm locked into a room and this is where I'm staying till the event is over. So let's talk about when should you open that door? You're on the floor. Once you open the door, oh yeah, it's like, I should have sat on the floor. What do you think? When the police get there, all right? And again, when someone physically comes to that door and you can confirm that they're the good guys, all right? That's part of that, making that call. I'm in room 310 of, I'm making this up obviously, of the Martin building. There's 4 of us in here, I'm going to stay on the line, and you let me know when someone's at my door and you confirm. It may be a longer period of time, but wait till hey, the person on this other side of this door is law enforcement, or it may be, it probably will not be just faculty by themselves. I'll just tell you that, all right? But law enforcement, that's when you open that door and kind of exit. So again, we've gone through option 1 and 2. What's option 3? Fight, right? Not the preferred one, obviously, but you may not have any other choice. So, again, act as aggressively as possible. If this is your option, and I always think of this as I turn the corner and I'm confronted with the attacker, all right? If I turn my back and run, likely possibility I get shot in the back. I can't hide, right? I can't dart off into a corner. So you have to, and it's got to be a quick, you can't hesitate, all right? Again, commit to your actions. You guys have pitchforks here? I advise you maybe get some pitchforks, all right? I'm sure the chancellor will spring for those, and we'll get every room outfitted with obviously, kind of try to lighten the mood a little bit. But again, if there's a group of you in a room, hey, if someone comes through this door, what do we do? If you have fire extinguishers, whatever it may be, improvised weapons. But again, at that point, you've got the least best option going, but you have to commit to it. So when you're on the line if you happen to have seen the attacker or have any information, why is this important to provide to the dispatcher or whoever you're talking to on the phone? Yeah, so if you happen to know, hey, it was a male, approximately 6 feet tall, dressed in a black shirt, blue jeans, carrying a pistol. That gives information that they can pass on to responding officers. I will tell you, and I'll give you a personal anecdote. I was one of the responders to the Covenant shooting in Nashville back in March. All right, so I got a call from my deputy director as I was returning back to my building and said, "Hey, this is going." He gave me the address. He goes, "There's an active shooter event. This address. Go." So I headed that way. Our office is in downtown Nashville. It's approximately about a 16-minute drive out to that school. I made it in a little under 8 minutes. And at the time, what I noticed was, as I started listening to the THP radio traffic, there were a lot of other responders already en route or on the scene. But what I gathered from that as I got there, I wasn't the first person there. I was probably the 50th person there, or probably more than that. Metro Nashville had already taken care of the situation, had stopped the active killing, but that was unknown to me. So I took the time to get my body armor on, get my rifle out, and move to the building. But again, as a law enforcement officer, if I know what threat I'm facing, I may take that little bit extra time. If I'm facing a person with a rifle, I'm probably going to get my armor on quickly, get my rifle. Again, that's me, and I'm sure every law enforcement officer that might have has their own thought process about how they respond. But again, that's important. I know what the physical description of the person I'm looking for and what they're armed with, possibly. And yet again, I get it with some folks that are, hey, he's armed with an AK-47 with this type of sight. All I need it's a long gun. That tells me he's armed with a rifle or a shotgun, or he's armed with a pistol. I don't, it's all you need to know. Importantly for you, hey, if you can tell them how many people are injured, all right, and their possible locations. So for the law enforcement officer responding, those first officers responding, their job is to stop the killing, all right? That's our mantra now. It goes back to Columbine, where they followed their procedures. They cordoned off the school, right? And then waited for specialized units to arrive to take care of the problem. In that interim, those two offenders killed more people. Again, that changed our mindset about how we respond. And I'm sure Chief Dickey could echo this. Years ago in law enforcement, you didn't go into any place alone if you didn't have to, right? Now it's, if you're the first officer on the scene, you've got to go in. Regardless of backup, how far they're away, you have to go in and stop the killing if you can. So what happened when help arrives? I touched on it. Responding officers, their job is to stop the attack, all right? So those first responders are going to bypass people that have been wounded. They're going to go to wherever the attack is and put a stop to it. They're not going to take the time to stop and render aid, because the longer we allow that attack to continue, the longer and the more victims you have. So it's a hard kind of thing to swallow. And when some of our trainings, I had an instructor say, you have to be prepared to step over victims that you know. All right, they're asking for help. Possibly school children that you know. Again, I'm a father. I've got a son in a junior in high school. All right, and go to where you need to stop that attack. So understand that they're going to move to that point to stop the attack. All right. Other folks will come in to provide aid and do what they can in the building. That last part there, how many folks here have any medical training? We have some nursing students in here? All right. Are you a nursing student, ma'am? All right, so do you, as a nursing student, do you feel like you have an obligation to help? Why do you feel that? Yeah. Yeah, because you feel like, hey, I have some level of training, I can help, and all good. I will tell you, what I would ask you to do is, certainly, if you don't have to risk yourself to help someone, do what you can. But I would caution you to not let that sense of, hey, I've got some medical training and the shooting is still going on, to endanger yourself to help someone else. And again, that's just my caution to you. I can't tell you exactly what you're going to do. You're going to make that decision, all right? But what we don't want is more victims, obviously. But if you're in a safe environment or a safer environment where you feel like you can render some aid without endangering yourself or others, absolutely do so. And I'll give you a link where you can go to get some, even if you're not you're not going in the medical field, what you can do to kind of help in these situations. So, stopping the bleed, invaluable training. And you will probably need this at some point in your life, and it's probably not going to be an active shooter event. All right? If you're a male, all right, generally, we're going to do something stupid with a knife. All right? Probably showing off for our buddies. And then we're like, oh, that's not good. I'll say this because my wife's not here. It's sometimes a dangerous environment with her cooking in the kitchen and knives. All right? If any of this gets out, I know where it came from. All right? She has cut herself more than once in the kitchen. But knowing how to just stop the bleeding is invaluable training, separate of this topic. So you can do it online, bleedingcontrol.org or any other, just Google it, and you'll my wife taught herself how to do drywall through, through YouTube. I'm like, is that a new wall? Yep, learned it on YouTube. And it's great. That means I don't have to do it. But again, I would tell you, knowing how to stop the bleeding is invaluable for you. All right. So if you have any questions, there's our how to get a hold of us and all that. But really, what I want to do is open up for questions, because I think that's really what's on your mind about any of this. Did it make sense or not make sense? Or, hey, usually there's some what ifs, right? What if this happens? What should I do? Any questions at all? Come on. Yes, ma'am. I would tell you what you should do if you're ever in a situation where you feel uncomfortable is to get yourself out of that situation. If I was in that situation where I would just, again, having, in our state, carrying a weapon, even openly, is not illegal, all right? And I fully understand where you're coming from. But I will tell you, if you're in a situation that goes back, that you're not comfortable being in, separate yourself from that situation. That's, hey, I can do my shopping later. And this is Mario speaking. I think there's a very, very small segment of our population that wants to kind of shock the conscience a little bit and say, hey, I'm not doing anything illegal. But you understand that it's probably being viewed by the vast majority of the rest of the people as like, that's kind of, you're almost like acting out. Hey, just because you can doesn't mean you should. So I would tell you, ma'am, that in that situation, whatever situation you're in that you're uncomfortable, separate yourself from that situation. Again, that's probably the best advice I can give you on that. And if you feel like, hey, this could go bad, you can make the call. You can call the authorities and let them investigate. But yeah, it's not illegal to openly carry a weapon, even multiple weapons. And generally, obviously, there's places that are posted that you're not allowed. Schools, wherever it may be posted. There's all these other little caveats that go along with it. But Chief, what would your advice be?
Well, pretty much what you echoed. I mean, I think I understood the question. If you was at a store, not a school, and somebody came in with multiple weapons or whatever. Yeah, because here's the deal. If they're get yourself out of the situation as quick as you can. Like you rely on your instinct. Let me share this with you. As far as this group of people right here, a lot of you probably sitting here thinking, I don't know really what I do. I'm going to change my mind on that. You didn't get to this far in your life, being able to attend college and not rely on your instinct and what you do in a bad situation. You'll know what to do when it happens. I promise you. And as long as you're doing something, okay, as long as you're doing something and not doing nothing, it will be a valuable asset. So take it at that situation where you're in a store and that happens. If somebody comes in, there's either one of two things. They have no motive. They have a motive to do good, to shop and move on or whatever, or they have a motive to do bad. And if you leave that store and it's just them in there because you're scared and you get somewhere and you call 911, if they were going to do bad and steal or whatever, they was going to do that with you in there. If they're going to do the right thing, they're going to hang around and like, well, wonder where they went. You know what I'm saying? And they'll still be there when the police show up or whatever. So get yourself out of that situation. And it's like anything else, and I think that goes, the whole point of this, what you can do if you're involved in something like that, is you want to separate yourself from that threat as far as you can. You can't worry about your buddy down the hall in another class or somewhere else. Everybody's got to act individually and do what's right. And if you do that, and if you think there's a threat over here, then you need to go this way, or vice versa. You don't want to head to it. You don't want to go to your car if you got to run past them to get to your car. do that, you can't worry about, look, you can't worry about who's with you. You know, if you got a buddy and you know, you got a friend and they're in the male section of the mall shopping and you're in the female or vice versa, you know, naturally you want to try to find and locate them. But here's the deal. You help each other by knowing, hey, I'm going to separate myself, and in the end, you hope you can join each other. But if you're spending time trying to find a buddy or hanging around in that hostile environment, you're going to be a part of the problem. I'm telling you. So if you just separate yourself from that, and it's like he said, you know, years ago, you wouldn't. I mean, you know, two officers. A single officer would not engage a violent threat. Well, let me tell you, our people are equipped now. And I'm not going to get into detail, but I can promise you, if we have an incident here and it's only one person, that they're going to be equipped to engage that. Okay? They can't rely on SRT team. You know, some of them's working, some of them's off, some of them's on vacation to assemble all that. Each individual officer is going to have to act independently and try to engage that. So, and in doing so, and all that, let me tell you, all that disrupts the person anyway. See, by you fleeing and separating yourself and all that, that disrupts them. I mean, so that you know what I'm saying? That disrupts them, and that's what you want to do. And I hope I've answered your question, but I'm telling you, I don't care what it is. If you're in church, if you don't like what the preacher's saying, you feel forced out of the message. I mean, really, I'm being facetious, but if you do that, look, no harm, no foul. I mean, what's the worst somebody can say? Well, Johnny come in here, and you know, some guy walked in with guns, and he took off out of the store, he must have been scared. That's okay. You know, it's rather be scared and be all in touch than it is to be, you know, be brave and hang around and maybe be part of a problem, okay? So.
Thank you, Chief. Hey, so don't take that as if you go to church, don't take that as, hey, I can get to the buffet line earlier if I just go ahead and book out halfway through the sermon. All right, so any other questions? Well, listen, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your attention. I know it was mandatory, so it wasn't, but I hope that you got something out of this. If you have any questions, obviously Josie is your first line of, hey, he covered this. What, you know, is there any more information? You can always reach out to us. Certainly the Pulaski Police Department, the Giles County Sheriff's Department are invaluable resources for more information. But again, thank you so much. I hope you have a very, very great year. I hope, again, that you look back and go, that was a wasted hour because I never had to use any of that stuff. I'll be perfectly fine with that. Again, thank you for your attention. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you all. So you've met the best. So this is Tennessee State. These folks work in Nashville. We have our own agent assigned here. So join me one more time in thanking them for making this trip to help us.
Okay, now real quick, we're going to go over RAVE just to make sure that everyone is signed up. Okay? I think most of you I called at the beginning of the school year. So if you have not signed up for RAVE, again, this is our emergency alert system. So if we were to have an active threat on campus, this is how we notify you to get to a safe place. This is how we tell you what's going on. It is entirely up to you if you want to opt into the text messages. I highly encourage you opt into the text messages. You will automatically receive emails, though. Because you have a UT Southern email, you will get it that way. But how many of you get notifications on your phone when you get an email? Some of you do. I'm proud of y'all. Look at that. I've been preaching for years, check your email. We're here. We've made it. So, that's awesome. So, there will be 2 ways that we notify you that there's something going on campus. That's how we will be doing the drill Monday. That's how we will be letting you know when you need to act in that drill. So, this is what it will look like on your phone. So when you go to the UT Southern website, you go all the way to the bottom, this is what you're going to see. Okay, if any of y'all need to do it, go ahead, scroll to the bottom, click on Campus Security. So, once you get to campus security, you're then going to click on the sign up for rave, big orange button. Okay, once you push that, you're going to see where it has rave systems in orange on that screen. You're going to click on that link. Is anyone having any issues so far? Okay. Ooh, too far. Apparently I can't work a clicker. Kevin, can you go back? Okay. Once you click on, no, one more forward. Okay, once you click on that, the link, this is what your screen's gonna look like. Now, some people have to go to their actual account at the top. You'll see where it's circled. Some, it'll automatically take you to this screen. You're gonna see where it has your mobile phone. If it already has your number there, it may have verify next to your number. So go ahead and verify that. If it does not, that's where you're gonna click add. That's also where if you get a new phone number, you have to go in and update that. If you do not go in and update that, we do not have your new cell phone number, right? So this is gonna be how you go in and change your number. The next one is gonna take you to this screen where it's gonna allow you to put your number in. You put your number in, you're gonna click continue. Kevin, will you go to the next one, please? Thank you. That's where you're gonna confirm your carrier, Verizon Wireless, T-Mobile, AT&T, whatever have you. Make sure that's correct. Click continue or confirm. And that's it. It's easy as that. It takes 1 second to do that, right? Now, once you've completed that, you may need to go back through that for it to ask you to verify your number. Either way, you're going to get our notifications at that point, but when you go through that again, if you have to update your number, you may see at the top where it says verify. All you got to do is click verify. It's going to send you a text message with a code. You put that in, easy as can be, all right? Does anyone have any issues going through that process? All right, if anyone did, if you need to see me after this, come see me. I will make sure that you are signed up for that. Now, one last chance. Are there any questions that y'all have that you want to ask any of these people that are here? That's what they're here for. They're here for you. Anything lingering, this is your chance to ask. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am. Sir, ma'am. Yes. You will receive a text message and email when it starts. You will receive another one when it ends. Any other questions? Okay. All right, if you have any that you just didn't want to ask in front of everybody else, come see me. All right, come see me. I'm here to help you. That's what I'm here for. Thank y'all.